The Madman! Welcome back to more Ashes of Outland cards. Got a huge amount of cards for you today. And we're gonna begin with a package that may define Paladin for this expansion phase. Libram of Justice, Libram of Wisdom, Libram of Hope, Aldor Truthseeker, Aldor Attendant, and honorable mention, Lady Liadrin, who we reviewed already, but now that we have all this information about Librams, we're seeing her again. The idea of Librams are that in terms of World of Warcraft lore, they're books that paladins carry around. In the world of Hearthstone, they are spells which distinctly get discounted by exactly 2 cards. Aldor Attendant, a 2-mana 2/3, reduce the cost of your Librams by 1 this game. And Aldor Truthseeker, 5-mana 4/6, taunt, battle card, reduce the cost of your Librams by 2 this game. These mana cost reductions are unique in that they are reducing the cost of all Librams forever. If you manage to have a really decent curve, and you play Aldor Attendant on 2, and Aldor Truthseeker on 5, all of your Librams will always be 3 off, which means that curves into Libram of Hope. And this card looks a lot better at 6 mana than 9 mana. Every single one of these Librams is deliberately overpriced so that they're not very good when you pay full price on it. Lady Liadrin is quite a bit better when you look at all of those Librams, because all of those Librams target either you or a friendly character. So each time you play those Librams before you play Lady Liadrin, when you play Lady Liadrin, you're gonna get more copies of these Librams. And all of those Librams that you generate off of Liadrin will also get discounted by the Aldor Truthseekers and or Aldor Attendants that you've played. And if you have played a bunch of Libram of Wisdoms, this is kind of like a 0 mana Explorer's Hat, which continues to be 0 mana. And at that point, just being able to freely give all of your minions +1/+1 as they trade away, that could actually be quite good. So there is the question of how many Libram cards are in this Libram package. I see 3 main theories. One theory, you just run Aldor Truthseeker, you run Libram of Wisdom, because Libram of Wisdom just needs 1 Aldor Truthseeker discount on it to become really insane. And then you run Lady Liadrin with it. When you play Lady Liadrin, you get a grip full of Libram of Wisdoms, and then whenever you play any minion, you can just toss all of your Libram of Wisdoms on it, or a lot of them, depending on how you want to play around Silence. And then you collect all your Libram of Wisdoms on every single one of your minions. So in the best case scenario, maybe for 0 mana, all of your minions are getting like +6/+6. Maybe, just maybe, you do go full Libram and you include every single one of these cards. They all seem to be in general geared towards a grindy paladin, a paladin that plays a really long game. You play your 2 Libram of Hopes, and then you play Lady Liadrin and you get another 2 Libram of Hopes. There's also a question of, is this all of the Libram related cards? I think probably, because every single class other than Demon Hunter is getting 10 cards, and after all of these cards have been revealed, Paladin is up to 8 out of 10 cards revealed. It would be strange not to reveal one of the Libram cards alongside the other 5. Also, if you're playing pure Paladin, you can play that 7 mana 7/7, generate 5 random Paladin cards. Some of those will be Librams, so maybe you get even more Libram value. There's the idea that because pure Paladin is going to need a lot of Paladin cards, maybe all of these Libram cards can fit into that package. There's also a third theory that this is just ridiculous and it's never going to work. It's so reliant on you drawing Aldor Truthseeker. I don't know if Aldor Attendant is good enough. So maybe the entire Libram package is trash. Now this card is really exciting for Paladin. Hand of Adal. 2 mana, give a minion +2/+2, draw a card. That's absolutely insane. So the way to think of these buff cards is generally think of them as minions with charge. 2 mana 2/2 with charge, that's great. 2 mana 2/2 with charge and draw a card, that's insane. Hand of Adal is like Mark of Yasharaj, except you don't have to target a beast. And Mark of Yasharaj was insane. And possibly because Hand of Adal is so good, maybe, just maybe, that boosts the stock value of Lady Liadrin a bit. 7 mana, 6/7, Priestess of Fury. At the end of your turn, deal 6 damage randomly split among all enemies. That's basically almost as good as Avenging Wrath. I looked at this card and I was like, wait, that's insane. That's a big reason not to play aggressive Demon Hunter. It's a reason to build your Demon Hunter towards a heavier side. What's the value of 6 damage randomly split among enemies? Probably about 4 mana. And remember the bundling effect. This is a major effect that's every turn bundled onto a 6/7, a substantial mana. Card's insane. By the way, fun fact, this card generally comes out the turn that your imprisoned Antane wakes up. So that is a major turn 7 boost. It's pretty tough to deal with your 6/7 repeatable effect if you don't have like a hard kill spell. So your Priestess of Fury ends up staying on the board, and then you just win on turn 8. You can also play the Priestess of Fury on 5 after playing Raging Fellscreamer on 4, and that is quite a monster to deal with on turn 5. 5 mana, 6/7 repeatable, 6 damage every turn. So yeah, look forward to that. Hey, Demon Hunter finally has a bad card. Fell Summoner, 6 mana, 8/3, Death Rattle, summon a random demon from your hand. This card was pretty good in Warlock, but that was a 4 mana, 3/4. So the point of being able to cheat out big minions is being able to do it early, which is why Void Color was good. You could do it on turn 4, but by the time it's turn 6, you could just summon the big minion like in 1 or 2 turns, so you barely save any time. We've actually seen a card similar to this that wasn't useful, except in a narrow combo situation. It was Coffin Crasher from Priest. You can argue that the Fell Summoner can target like really specific high cost demons. Maybe a demon will appear that's high cost that'll make me want to summon it, but I'm not really seeing it. Druid gets Ysel Windslinger, the leader of the Cenarian Expedition in Zangarmarsh. 9 mana, 5/5, legendary. Your spells cost 1. And I think this is really memey, and also a little bit of an overlap with Kael'thas Sunstrider. I think if you want to cheat out your spells that cost a lot, you should do it with Kael'thas instead of Ysel. Druids are also getting Germination. 4 mana, summon a copy of a friendly minion, give the copy taunt. Faceless Shambler wasn't really played that much in Druid. Will Germination see play in Druid? You do get the full copy, including the text of the minion. Sometimes that matters. We see a bunch of Hunter cards as well, and before we jump into Imprisoned Felmaul, I think it's very useful to see side by side another card that was also revealed, Imprisoned Vilefiend. A neutral 2 mana 3/5, dormant for 2 turns with Rush. So most of the dormant cards are a little bit fast in that they do something when they wake up. Imprisoned Vilefiend is fast in that when it wakes up it can immediately attack, which effectively means, and I had to actually work this out a while in my head to understand how good or bad the Vilefiend was. This is basically like a 2 mana 3/5, which is frozen for a turn. Is a 2 mana 3/5, which is frozen for 1 turn, good? And my conclusion is that control decks may actually want that. It is a little bit better than a 2 mana 3/5 that's frozen for a turn, because your opponent cannot interact with it. You are guaranteed the first attack with Imprisoned Vilefiend. As a control deck on turn 4, you get to dictate the trade. And I say control because it's value and or control decks which will have the time to allow the dormant to wake up. So control decks usually do not play minions on turn 2, which means that this is a very legitimate turn 2 play, which will set up your turn 4 to be rather strong. I think it's a card that you could see in the value-oriented, slower Highlander decks, and maybe even in control decks, especially as the first set of an expansion. Maybe it's going to be one of the weaker cards that's in the deck, but you might just need a few filler cards. Let's talk Imprisoned Felmaul from Hunter. 2 mana 5/4, dormant for 2 turns. When this awakens, attack a random enemy. It's a little bit similar to the neutral version, where this is going to be fast in attacking an enemy. Unlike the Rush, though, attack on random enemy can be the enemy face, which is probably your preferred attack result. That's very aggressive. I could see this potentially in an aggressive Hunter deck, which is a surprise, right? Because would aggressive decks want dormant? Well, it's a big high roll. And I'm going to present to you a case of a dormant card that turned out to be really good. Toxic Reinforcements. was basically dormant for 2 turns because you could activate it immediately if you played the hero power along with it, but often you didn't. Sometimes it's okay for a card to not do anything immediately. It's just good that you eventually got some incredible value later. And even for Hunter, yes, Toxic Reinforcement sucked when you top decked it, but if you got it early, then it's a big payoff. Even though you had to sink mana into your hero power, which you usually don't want to do. You usually want to develop your board. So that's just an example of how dormant can be good. A lot of these quests, actually, are basically dormant things. So would you play a 2-mana 5/4? Absolutely. The quest is to wait 2 turns. Is that good? It's hard to say. I think a lot of these dormant cards require field science to test, but I think it can be good. Hunter's getting Magtheridon Lion. Pretty interesting card. 4-mana 5/2 Beast. Rush. Battlecry. Choose a friendly minion. Gain a copy of its death rattle. Interesting because there aren't very many obvious targets for it. There are 2 this expansion, actually. One is Zixor, the Prime. If you copied Zixor's death rattle, you could potentially get more copies of Zixor Prime into your deck. That's pretty ambitious. It's hard to expect that you can curve the 3-mana card into the 4-mana Magtheridon Lion, which means are you waiting until turn 7 to do that? Oh, that's pretty tough. There's also Augmented Porcupine. This minion's attack damage randomly split among all enemies. That's a lot more interesting when you have a 5-attack rush minion. So you curve Augmented Porcupine into Magtheridon Lion. Interesting idea. Will there be a Death Rattle Hunter deck? Maybe. At the very least, even if you don't copy a Death Rattle with it, it is 4 mana, deal 5 damage to a minion. That's not too bad. And Hunter gets a big one. Nagrand Slam. 10 mana, summon 4 3/5 Cleft Hoofs that attack random enemies. Huge spell, not even legendary, so you can have 2 copies of it in your deck. 1220 in stats for 10 mana. And not just 1220, but fast 1220. They immediately attack random things. Potentially 12 damage to the face if your opponent's board is clear. Your opponent's board will probably not be clear though, because you're probably putting this in a slow Hunter deck. Or a Highlander Hunter deck. I do think this card will be good enough to make the cut in that deck. Or at least be considered in that deck for more value-oriented Highlander Hunters. Zul'jin is sadly rotating out, otherwise Nagrand Slam could be ridiculous with Zul'jin. Really high value card. It's possible that they waited for this expansion for Zul'jin to rotate it out. For those of you who follow my custom card series, I often critique certain Hunter spells as dangerous to print while Zul'jin is still in the meta. But, maybe consider printing it after Zul'jin rotates out. I have no doubt that the Hearthstone team decided exactly with this card to print it after Zul'jin rotated out of Standard. Oh, let's talk Mage. Mage has a 5-mana Apexis Blast, which shows us a direction that Mage is going. Deal 5 damage. If your deck has no minions, summon a random 5-cost minion. So this is the same restriction that we saw Hunter have a while ago. That deck worked because there was enough support for it. There were cards that generated minions from your spells. Will this work for Mage? I think that right now, this is a meme. Similar to Spell Hunter did not immediately take off. It was considered extremely weak, given that there are very few cards in the standard pool when this first set comes in. I doubt this is going to work, but it does show that as more and more cards come out, maybe we revisit Apexis Blast. Apexis Smuggler, a 2-mana 2/3. After you play a secret, discover a spell. Play this with Mage secret decks. Will Mage get a secret this expansion? I think that'll be a determining factor on whether or not Apexis Smuggler is good. There is a decent amount of Mage secrets synergy going on. Of course, you have the Kirin Mage, there's also the Flak Mage, and there's also the Cloud Prince. So there are the rumblings of a secret package lying around, but just because Apexis Smuggler is out, I don't think that package gets substantially better. What it's missing is better secrets, I would guess. It is worth mentioning that enough secret synergy does push a Mage deck with secrets to the top. It's currently a very strong deck in Wild because they have Explosive Runes and they have the 1 mana 2/1 that lets you play a secret for free. So in Standard Land, we're gonna see if there's more secret synergy or good secrets. Priest gets Sethic Veilweaver, 2 mana 2/3. After you cast a spell on a minion, add a priest spell to your hand. It's Lyra, almost. Big discount, and 2 mana 2/3 stat line is way better than 5 mana 3/5. Great value if you just manage to cast one spell. Priest is in a unique situation right now where we still don't know much about the Priest cards coming out. We saw a huge dump of Paladin cards all at once, so maybe Priest has some sort of synergy that will all be released at one moment. But we'll keep our eyes open on the type of cards that Priest is getting. This card could be good or not based off that. I get the suspicion that it's already just good by default though, because I think where it lies is it's in a control deck and it'll be played similar to Lyra. The only exception is like maybe it's actually good in a Zoo Priest deck if there are enough cheap buffs lying around. Next up we have Replicatotron. This is a pretty creative entry. 4 mana 3/3 mech. At the end of your turn, transform a neighbor into a copy of this. So let's talk baseline. Suppose you have a 1/1, you play Replicatotron, touching just the 1/1, you're guaranteed then to have your 1/1 turn into Replicatotron, effectively meaning that it was given a +2/+2 buff at the end of your turn. So from that case, it's 4 mana 5/5. That's a decent baseline, I suppose. However, here's where you can really get tremendous value off of Replicatotron. Basically, the more you can buff the Replicatotron, the better it is for you, because all the buffs splash over to other minions too. So best case scenario, you play the Replicatotron really late, you toss 4, 5, 6 Libram of Wisdoms on it, then you transform a neighboring minion into a 7/7 Replicatotron, which has 4 Death Rattles, 6 Libram of Wisdoms on it, whatever, and then you just start Libram of Wisdoming everything. Seems very memey, but maybe that's the dreamy. And finally, we have the big Magtheridon. 4 mana 12/12, Dormant. Battlecry, summon 3/1/3 enemy warders. When they die, destroy all minions and awaken. This is actually a huge game changer. 3/1/3 enemy warders is actually not that big a deal. And it's a little bit like Doomsayer in that if you have a small AoE that deals 3 damage to all minions, then you get instead a Twisting Nether type effect where you destroy all minions and you're guaranteed the tempo to start with. You just get a huge 12/12. This is going to be a cool card to put into control decks. There are some big drawbacks though, because you actually have to kill 3 enemy warders. So 1, they have to be on the opponent's side. 2, if your opponent gets rid of a warder by not killing it, such as Shadow Step, or evolving it with an Evolve Lackey, or evolving it because they're a shaman and they are playing evolve cards, or maybe they transform it in some way, that could ruin your Magtheridon opening. But that is a really big effect, and I think it's worth the risk to run this in some control decks which have turn 5 AoE. I think it's going to be a really strong play to do turn 4 this, and I'm thinking exactly control warlocks here. Maybe with Galakrond. So, that was a lot of cards. Look forward to the next card review session, because that is going to be the stream where they're showcasing a bunch of these new cards. I have no doubt that one of the decks they're going to be showing off is going to be Priest, because we've seen so few of the Priest cards, so tune into the future of Priest very soon.